Welcome back for part 2 in my series of how to Disney pin trade. In part 1, I talked about how to pin trade in the parks, both with cast members and also with other guests. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to Disney pin trade online, focusing specifically on pin trading on Facebook, Instagram, and PinPics. Before I talk about any of these platforms in specific, what I would recommend for anybody who's going to be interested in trading or purchasing pins online is to join a pin reference group. I'm going to link to 2 groups in the description below. These groups offer character or reference checks of basically any pin trader or seller that you come across, and then other people will post their experiences with this person, which really helps to keep people safe when they are either trading or purchasing online, since with almost anything there are going to be scammers. And especially if you're new into the hobby, you don't want to get scammed by somebody where you send off your half of the trade but they don't send their pins back to you. And these groups will provide reference and character checks across all pin trading platforms, be it Facebook, Instagram, PinPics, also even eBay. But I'm going to start off with talking about pin trading on Facebook, since that's where I do most of my trading and that's the platform I enjoy most for pins. Pin trading on Facebook occurs within specific closed Disney pin trading groups. Also in the description, I'm going to link to some of my favorite Disney pin groups that are used for both trading and selling Disney pins. There's lots of different Disney pin groups of various sizes. Some of the larger groups are nice because that means you're going to be able to see a lot of posts. If you're looking to trade for a specific pin, there's a greater chance that somebody might have it, but that also means that there's going to be more posts in that group, so it might be a little easy for your post to get lost. And in that case, smaller pin trading groups are also nice too. But I will say what you want in a pin group is that you want active moderators. That way, in the case that anything does go awry in a trade or a purchase, these moderators are people who are going to step in. They can help out if you think you've gotten scammed, or if you seem to be having an issue with delivery, or any other little problem. These moderators are going to try and help resolve it. So with the pin trading groups that I've linked below, those are ones in which I know there are active moderators. They're the ones that I spend most of my time in. I try not to be in too many Disney pin groups because sometimes it gets a little bit overwhelming with you want to check everything and stay up to date with everything. Actually, when I very first found and joined the groups, there was a lot of FOMO, where I was really afraid I would miss out on something if somebody posted something great, but you just gotta remind yourself to take it easy. So once you've joined a pin group, which typically they're all closed, and generally that's just so they don't have any outside spammers coming in, and admins or moderators will pretty quickly approve your request to join. The first thing that you want to do in a group is to read their group rules. These group rules are almost always included in the pinned post in top, and different groups have different specific rules that you want to adhere to. If you don't adhere to these groups' rules, that means your post can get deleted or you may get banned. Generally in the groups that I am in, scrapper and fake pins are expressly prohibited, so if you're knowingly trying to trade fake pins, that gets you a ban. But if you're new and don't know, then people are happy to help inform you. Once you've familiarized yourself with your group's rules, you can then go ahead and make a post with your pins to trade. There's a few ways that you can format a post if you want to trade. One way would to have a post that's specifically saying that I am in search of these pins, and that's called an ISO post. So what you would do is you would grab images of the pins that you're looking for, saying I'm in search of these. And then other people who do have those pins will comment or respond to you with what they have, and then you can send along the pins that you have for trade. Alternatively, you can make a post where you just post pictures of all the pins that you have up for trade. In that post, you can say some of the themes that you like to collect. So you could say something like, here's all my pins for trade. I like to collect Zootopia and Emperor's New Groove and attractions, but I'm also open to looking at anything. So you can either initiate one of these ISO or trade posts, or you can comment and contact somebody else who has made one of these posts, and then you can offer up the pins that you have for trade. On Facebook, trade agreements typically are always made through private message or PM using the Facebook Messenger app. So if I posted some of the pins that I have for trade, I might get a comment from somebody that says PM, which means that they've sent me a private message with their pins to trade. It's always recommended to comment on a post when you're sending a private message. That way that person at least gets a notification that they have a message to look for. And then in Facebook Messenger, you can work out the details of your trade. And when you're trading, you always want to be cognizant of pin values. This is where it can sometimes get tricky trading online because some people will be very particular about their pin values, especially with higher end pins. If you're just trading open edition pins or mystery pins, most people are generally just open to trading OE for OE, since the value of those are all around the same at the purchase price. Once you get into older pins and limited edition pins, that's where things are a bit more complicated. You may have a pin that is LE 300, but its value is actually far less than an LE 5000. So typically people do not trade edition size for edition size unless they are of the same value. And the way most everybody finds the values for their pins is to look at eBay sold listings for that pin. You don't want to look at just the active listings on eBay for a pin, because a lot of times they're active because they're a little overpriced. People might not want to pay that much. But if you click the filter where you just search for sold listings, generally what people do is average about how much they've sold for, and that's kind of what they value the pin at. So in these trades, you can either agree to trade just one pin with a person, or you can trade multiple pins. You then exchange mailing addresses, pack up your pins, and ship them out to the other person. I have a whole video on how to package and send Disney pin mail that I'm going to link somewhere up here and then also in the description. You're for sure going to want that if you are new to pin trading online, since if you're mailing pins, you absolutely have to mail them in a bubble mailer wrapped in bubble wrap. If you mail them just in a paper envelope, the sorting machine is going to rip that pin right out. Bubble mailers and bubble wrap are going to ensure that your pin arrives there safely. So pin trading online is a really great way to complete mystery sets if you like those, or to find some of the harder to find pins that you're looking for. It's also great to keep up with new pin releases. But in many of these pin groups, I'd say there's at least an equal, if not more, amount of pin selling that goes on. So some people may have pins that are for trade or sale, and if that person says, I don't really see any of your pins that I like, but I would happily sell this to you. And I would say I do the majority of my pin purchasing through Facebook groups. And buying pins online, and this is kind of general across all platforms, you do payment through PayPal, and I'm going to say this now, and remember this. You should never, ever pay for something as friends and family on PayPal. PayPal gives you multiple options to pay. You can pay as goods or services, or you can pay as friends and family. As the name suggests, friends and family is intended for you to actually send money to your friends and family. Say you need to pay somebody back for dinner or whatnot. And goods and services is when you're purchasing something or there's a business transaction involved. Goods and services takes out a fee for the seller. If I remember correctly, the PayPal fee is around 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. And PayPal takes out that fee because it then offers PayPal protection to both the buyer and the seller. If you purchase a pin from somebody as friends and family, you have absolutely zero buyer protection. The seller as well also doesn't have protection. So say that person is going to scam you and they ask for payment as friends and family, they then have your money. There's the potential that you can appeal to PayPal and try and file a claim, but typically friends and family just means it's lost. That also means you might lose out on things if there are any problems in shipping or if the post office loses a package. But unless you're actually buying somebody who is your friend or family, you always need to pay as goods and services. That is one of the biggest mistakes that people just starting out make. Whenever I come across somebody who has prices listed as friends and family, I always just say I'm happy to calculate and add on fee for goods and services. And if a seller absolutely refuses to take payment as goods and services, that is a red flag to not purchase from them. But I really love scrolling through all my pin groups on Facebook. It's really fun to see what type of pins people have up for sale or for trade. And that's really where I focus my pin trading and buying online. The next platform that a lot of people use is Instagram. Many people have separate pin Instagram accounts, and they use these accounts separate from their personal accounts where they specifically focus on trading or also selling their pins. Instagram trading works in a pretty similar way to Facebook, where you can make a post on Instagram with your trader pins, and then people will send you a private message asking to work out a trade. However, I don't really trade much on Instagram because you don't have the group moderator protections, and so Instagram is based a lot on a person's reputation in the pin community. If I do trade on Instagram, that's typically with somebody who I also know is in one of the Facebook groups, and I'd say I tend to purchase on Instagram more than I trade, but that's also because I don't have a separate pin Instagram account. I kind of just do everything on my main account, but a lot of people are really big into Instagram for pinning. I'd also say that Instagram is a pretty good place if you're looking to trade and purchase fantasy pins. There's a lot of creators that are on there, but it's pretty easy to find tons of people with their Instagram accounts. But like I said, a big thing about Instagram is having a reputation, and people need to make sure that you are trustworthy and going to follow through with your trade. So typically when somebody receives a trade from a person, they'll post a photo of it and tag the person that they received it from. Some people may have a pin trading hashtag, or they may send out a little pin trading card with a username. But otherwise, going about the pin trading aspect itself is very similar to how it's done on Facebook. It's just with Instagram, you have specific users' feeds. It's very easy once you start searching and finding Disney pins to have new people come up in your recommendations. Pretty easy to find new accounts to follow who do pins. But like I said, I don't really do much trading on Instagram, since people who focus on that generally have a whole separate pin account. And then finally, I wanted to talk about trading on PinPics. So if you're unaware, PinPics.com is a massive Disney pin database. They basically have listings of just about every single pin in existence. And for the majority, people just use PinPics as a way to catalog their pins. But PinPics has a built-in trade feature where you can trade with other members. I believe the program is called Trade Assist, where you might have a specific pin checked in your want. You can see who else is trading it, and then you can send a message to that person to see if they want to work out a trade. However, because most people tend to use PinPics just to organize their pins, oftentimes you won't get a response to a trade request. If you want to have a successful trade request, I'd recommend finding people who appear to be active, as in you can tell they've recently added new pins to their profile, and then make sure the trade request you send along is a balanced trade. I've heard many people say they get a lot of trade requests, but they don't respond to them because they'll have this valuable limited edition pin and have somebody messaging them offering a very common open edition pin. A lot of times that's just people really not knowing trade values, but sometimes it's people who are trying to shark them and trying to find an unsuspecting person who might not know that their pin is valuable. I have had a number of successful trades on PinPics. I've gotten some pretty cool pins before, but you want to make sure that you're in contact with the other member and that they send along clear pictures of the pins. I find that the PinPics Messenger is not very effective. It's very difficult with loading images, so sometimes I'll just send along my email address and then share pictures through email. But especially with PinPics, you want to make sure that you have a reference request for that person to make sure that they are a legitimate pin trader. Not too long ago, there was a scammer in France on PinPics who was offering very good high-end pin trades, and they had a number of people who did send along pins to them. However, they scammed tons of people because they sent one singular empty envelope to the US and sent that tracking number to everybody they had traded with. Luckily, I think in France, they were able to intercept just about all the packages that were sent to this person and get the pins back to their rightful owner. But that's why with PinPics, you really want to know who you're trading with, make sure that they are a trustworthy person and that they're going to follow through with their end of the trade. PinPics is a really good way to see what pins people have listed as up for trade, but I'd say it's much easier if you know that person to contact them on another platform such as Instagram or Facebook to actually work out the trade, since like I said, the PinPics messaging system just really isn't the greatest. And so Facebook, Instagram, and PinPics really covers the base majority of where Disney pin trading online is. There are some other locations, there are some other Disney pin forums. There may be some Reddit pages where there is also some trading, but in general, the same rules for trading apply anywhere online. In the comments below, please let me know if you do have any more specific questions about Disney pin trading or selling online. I only get to go to the Disney parks once every blue moon, so the online Disney pin community is really where I get my pin fix. Thanks for watching!